Hey PewTubers, welcome back. Kevin Inoue here, Fight Designer LLC. Today what I want to talk about is John Wick 3 Parabellum. You really can't be into theatrical and film firearms and not be aware of at least the influence of John Wick. I mean, it really is the flavor du jour, the trendsetter. There was a time, and I just realized I'm wearing this shirt because I'm looking at my monitor. There was a time when everybody wanted to be the new James Bond, or then wanted to be Jason Bourne, in terms of that sort of firearms flair. But John Wick has left those characters in the dust for the moment. John fucking Wick. Number 3 in the series. Yeah, I just saw it. Got home about an hour ago. Still trying to decide how I feel about it. So the last movie that I saw in the theaters was Avengers Endgame. And frankly, John Wick is no less a comic book superhero than any of those characters in Avengers in terms of the ridiculousness of the scenarios. I mean, he would fit right into, for example, the Netflix Marvel comic universe as sort of a, Punisher's more stylish and code-driven alter ego. The ninjas of John Wick 3 could totally fit in with the hands of Daredevil, or for that matter, the foot of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Obviously, at this point, there's going to be spoilers. If you take even longer to see movies than I do, it's kind of your own damn fault, but if you don't want the spoilers, wait, watch this some other time. John Wick 1 was a great sort of genre forwarding event, kind of in the same way that the first Matrix movie was, also with Keanu Reeves, of course. But it really set the bar for what we want action to be, and a lot of things are trying to copy it the same way that a lot of things tried to copy the Matrix and bullet time effects and all that. The plot was pretty simple. They kill the guy's dog, they steal his car, he wants revenge, straight up revenge flick. John Wick 2 got a little bit more into him having to make choices. He's presented with a conundrum. He lives by a code, but what do you do when the code says you must do this, but it also says you can't do that, so what do? I'm caught between a rock and a hard place. How do I choose? What do I do? When you have a character who lives by a code, that's an interesting choice to give him. I thought it had some awesome action scenes and an interesting thing to do with the character. Now, John Wick 3, I think, suffers a little bit from some of this whole sequel thing of we have to make it bigger, we have to push it more, we have to make it more something. And in some ways, I think they might be trying too hard. It's getting a little bit more into the cartoony side, more into the superhero realm than the predecessors are, I think. Still some interesting characters, some interesting bad guys. I loved the John Wick 2 foils that he had. John Wick 3, Halle Berry was an interesting choice, although frankly, I think her dogs were fucking amazing and kind of upstaged her a little bit, because those trained attack dogs were awesome, and she did great with them. But the fight scenes, I don't know, the whole, now there's ninjas, and now there's, sword fights on motorcycles and horses. Some of it they kind of justified, some of it maybe they didn't. And I kind of like the little nod of the characters who know each other being like, hey, how you been, John? How you been, Mr. Wick? The appreciation of the artistry of the other person. They do push it, and John Wick 3 is kind of just action. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but there's even less plot at this point. They've kind of just said, fuck it, we're not here for the plot, we're here for the cool action. So let's just have a series of action scenes. We've already set it up in the previous movie, we already know why they're fighting. The whole theme they keep coming back to is consequences. John Wick 3 is more about the fights that are the consequence of things that happened in John Wick 2. And as a storyteller, I miss having as many choices. Like, there's one or two little choices that yeah, okay, so you can go this way, so you're going to go that way. But I feel like the interesting choices were mostly made in the other movies, mostly in John Wick 2. So John Wick 3 has really just got to be able to stand on the merits of, is it a fun, kick-ass action movie? Is it a lot of fun action scenes to see, or no? And for the most part, yeah, it holds up. It's a fun action movie to watch. Is it better than the other two? I would say no. It does try to go bigger and crazier than the other two, but I'm not sure that's necessarily a good thing. They definitely put in the time on training. Keanu kept his training up. Halle Berry did a lot of great training with Terran Tactical and with some of the judo folks and Sambo and whatever else. They continued some of the world building, which is fun. But in terms of action scenes, at this point we've seen a lot of what they're already doing. We've seen him do the cool reloads in all three guns. We've seen him do the throws. We've seen the disarms. We've seen a lot of this. And it seems like they're having to say, okay, how do we make this character have challenges? Okay, we'll give bad guys with really strong armor that bullets don't get through, or at least most bullets won't get through. So we have that little bit there, and we kind of work through that. But, he goes through so much. That character would be dead so many times. He would be deaf so many times. Gunshots in close proximity, and even underwater. I did kind of enjoy the underwater bullet sequence where it's, and then he goes up point blank. But gunshots underwater can be really freaking loud. Gunshots not underwater can be really freaking loud. And he absorbs so many, full spinning heel kicks to the head. I mean, there's only so many of those you can take and not be out. When's the last time you saw an action hero actually have to deal with the realistic consequences of a concussion? At the very least, you have some of that going on. So it's gone beyond the pale. It's jumped the shark a little bit in that sense to me. But the action, does it hold up? For the most part, yeah. But it wasn't perfect, and the first two were so good that this one was a little bit of a letdown in that sense. I mean, they had some really good people. They had some of the folks from The Raid, for example. But there were a couple of things that stood out to me. One, Halle Berry has a bit of a tendency to jump to the end in her choreography. So when someone comes at her with a gun, with a knife, and they've got her choreographed to do this cool counter move and disarm and throw and whatever it is, she has a bit of a habit, which is really common in actors, but which on a film of this caliber they really ought to have caught and worked with her on, of jumping to the end, going to the cool part, and forgetting about the fact that attack has to be believably avoided before you can get to the cool part. And she has a little bit of a habit of just kind of, we're going to skip that and get to the cool part, and never mind the fact that the stuntman's got to actually kind of try not to hit you so that you can justify not having to get out all of the way first before you go in. And that bugged me a little bit. Again, her dogs were fucking awesome, though. And John Wick himself. There were a couple times in there, and Halle Berry as well as Keanu Reeves. There were a couple times when I felt like they hit the parry early. So, like in the belt fight, for example, he'd hold up the belt, he'd have that block ready, and then the character would attack to what is obviously an already blocked line that doesn't make any sense. In the choreography, I'm sure that attack came in, and then they blocked last minute and did their counter. But, again, common habit, but really this is the kind of thing the coordinator ought to be catching, watching the monitor on set and being like, you know what, you were a little early on that one, let's redo that. Because if they hit that early, at best, it just makes them look a little too slick and never really threatened. Less drama, to me, a little less interesting. At worst, it ruins the cause and effect relationship, the logic, the martial logic of the piece. The idea that there was a threat, an action, and a reaction, response, which allowed him to not die and go on to the next thing. As opposed to a piece of choreography where he knew what was going to come and it could just be like, I'm going to hit my pose, wait for them to do their thing, then I'm going to do my thing. As with all acting, right? You can't just anticipate the end of the line, you can't anticipate the other character's line, you've got to actually listen and respond for it to feel believable. And I think there were a couple times when they missed that. But there were some really ballsy shots. kind of hate that phrase. Sorry for using it. But there were some really ambitious shots where, you know, they'd have like 4 or 5 major glass breaks in one take. That would be a bitch to have to reshoot. That would be a pain in the ass to have to reset, and expensive, I'm sure, as well, to have to reset and redo. So setting all of that up to happen in one take, where if one thing goes wrong, you got to do the whole thing over again. That's pretty ambitious. And I got to give them props for doing some of those long takes that fight people like me enjoy. I had been warned or read online that it was a gorier film. It had a higher body count than some of the others. They, for the most part, stayed away from the gratuitous gore, though. Like, when there is some splatter, it might be, you know, backlit, so it's just black or something like that. There's not a whole lot of just, like, horror / film level gore fest kind of stuff. It's not the big splats on the wall and on the camera lens and that kind of stuff. But definitely, you know, we're talking about violence. We're talking about consequences of violence. It's an interesting setup. So, in summary, I think it's an interesting continuation of the past one, and like a whole bunch of fight scenes that they just couldn't fit into the last one almost. A little bit of a contrived, like, quest that's kind of anticlimactic, if you ask me. And then a setup for what's obviously going to be more to come. So plot-wise, kind of let me down. Fight-wise, it's fun. But again, given my expectation from the previous 2 films, kind of let me down a little bit. So this might be blasphemy, but you know, I kind of feel like it doesn't hold up as well as the other 2. So take that for what it's worth. Will I still buy it on DVD or Blu-ray and try and watch the bonus features and all the training segments and all that stuff? Yeah, probably. Will I then be able to give a better analysis than I can just after one quick late night showing? Yeah, probably. But first impressions, I think, matter. This is my sort of virtual unboxing of my experience of watching John Wick 3. And, you know, unboxing videos are popular. And, you know, I'm not going to send it back, but it's probably not going to be my favorite of the franchise or my go-to on action movies. So there's my take. Does that mean I could do better? Oh, hell no. You know, I'm not at that level of hubris. I'm at the level of expertise where I can see what they're doing wrong. Doesn't mean that I don't make the same damn mistakes. And I'm sure if you watch anything that I've done, you'll be able to pick it apart as well. And that's okay. You know, that's part of the experience. And going forward, hopefully I will be doing some stuff. I don't know how much firearm stuff I'll be doing, but I do have some videos I should be shooting soon as a part of the book that I'm working on. My second book with Focal Press. So, you know, we'll see. We'll see. And maybe we'll get some people online on YouTube tearing me apart next. Who knows? Fair's fair. But you know, if people can treat me the same way that I'm treating Keanu Reeves, I have no problem with that. I still have a ton of respect for everybody who worked on that movie, and I'm not trying to tear anybody down. But I gotta call it like I see it, because that's how we get better. So, till next time, keep getting better, keep looking good, play safe, have fun, and this is Kevin Inoue with PewTube.